Hello, this is Lyrelion, and welcome back once again to All the Mods 9 here at Hack the Planet. Today I'm going to do a high-level overview of the Iron Spells and Spellbooks spells portion of the mod. There is too much in the mod as a whole to really go over everything, but we're just going to kind of touch on the basics of the spell system and how to use the scrolls. The first thing I recommend is go to the Irons wiki page here, iron.wiki. It will go into a lot more detail and give you more about the mod than what I can do in a short video. Most importantly, take a look at the spells because there are dozens of spells, and I'm not going to go over each and every one of them in detail. I'll just do some highlights. Spells in Iron Spells are broken down into schools. So you've got Blood, Eldritch, Ender, Evocation, Fire, Holy, Ice, Lightning, and Nature. I do have a variety of those spells to show you today, but again, like I said, I'm not going to go over every single one of these spells in the course of this video. So let's hop over here. We are on the top floor of my tower in my library. This is where I keep my storage of maxed level spell scrolls. So one thing you'll note if you look in JEI, you will see that there are a lot of scrolls. But if you look a little closer, like for instance here with Oakskin, you've got level 1, 2, 3, all the way up to level 8. Different spells do have different numbers of levels, so it's not a consistent, everything has 8, everything has 10. Like for instance here, Planar Sight only has 3. But this list of scrolls is significantly shorter when you consider that some of them are just higher level versions of the same. What I have here is just the top tier of everything. For the most part broken down by school. There are a few little stragglers over here because they do continually add new spells to the mod, so that's one nice thing, is that this mod is still in active development and they're always coming up with new ideas. I just didn't feel like rearranging the whole shelves to accommodate these new spells. So in order to cast iron spells, you're going to need scrolls. You can use them directly as items from the hotbar, but are far more useful if you put them into a spell book. There are a number of spell books available. You look in the JEI once again. Let's find the spell books. Really should have done this beforehand. But there are a number of spell books you can use to equip your spells. I use an Unobtainium spell book because it does have the highest capacity for spells. And for some reason the spell books don't seem to be showing up in JEI. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but not that important. So let's head down to the Magic Lab, take a look at a couple important pieces of equipment down here. First is the Arcane Anvil. This is where you upgrade your spells. So, like I was pointing out, the different spells have different levels. There are 5 different types of ink: common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. And the higher level a scroll is, the higher level ink you're going to need to craft it. So, say you take something like Cone of Cold here, level 8 is an epic spell, but Cone of Cold level 4 is an uncommon spell. So, if you wanted to upgrade this Cone of Cold level 4 spell, you need to figure out what rarity the level 5 is. It could be uncommon, it could be rare, it could be epic. And you combine this scroll with the appropriate ink here in the Arcane Anvil. So let's go ahead and grab one of those. if the lag will let me. Sometimes a bit of a challenge making these videos on servers because the servers do have the potential for lag. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and grab what I think it's going to be, which is an uncommon, but I could be wrong. And so you can see by combining this level 4 scroll with the uncommon ink, you create a level 5 scroll. And you can upgrade that all the way up to max level. The next important piece of equipment here is the Scroll Forge. This is where you create new scrolls. Each spell school has an item associated with it. In this case, I'm set up for Eldritch Scrolls using the Echo Shards. But if you wanted to make, say, Frost Scrolls or Fire Scrolls, you would use different items here and just use the paper and the ink that goes with it. And then lastly, you've got the inscription table over here. And again, got a little bit of lag. The inscription table is where you will actually put those scrolls into your spell books. So say I wanted to replace my telekinesis spell here. I would just take that telekinesis scroll out, and I could put the Cone of Cold scroll in its place, except I already have a Cone of Cold spell and it won't let me put a second one. That spell book goes into your spell book slot in your curios. That is the only way to use a spell book as opposed to using the scrolls directly. As you can see, I have the Unobtainium spell book that has 15 slots in it. Like I said, there are other spell books that have fewer. There are not really any that have more than the Unobtainium, however. So let's just do a quick little demonstration. Like I said, I'm not going to go over every spell, but kind of show some of the ones that I do carry with me regularly. You can see on the bottom left of my screen, those are the spells that I have in my spell book. And we're just going to hop over here. And so I've got Cone of Cold. And what that does is creates a streaming area of cold damaging effect in front of you. Wall of Fire, you just set 2 points. And it creates the wall. Now if you notice, this, as I cast these spells, it does do a cooldown effect on the icons over there. You can't just rapidly cast spells over and over. You do have to wait for the cooldown. That's Arrow Volley there. But you've got everything from summoning spells to buffs to attacks and wide variety of spells. Again, I do recommend taking a look at the wiki. I'll just show you my favorite here is Skulk Tentacles. That one's just a fun one to show off. That is an Eldritch spell. One thing to be aware of is that while you can learn most spells just fine, the Eldritch class of spells is a little different. You do have to collect the ancient knowledge fragments from the ancient cities, combine those into a Eldritch manuscript, which I should have one in here. Guess I don't. Oh, there we go. There's my Eldritch manuscript. And you can learn each of those spells individually. I have learned all of them here. You do not have to learn them in order, but until you learn a given spell, the text of that scroll is just going to look like gibberish. That only applies to the Eldritch class of spells, however. Every other class you can just use as soon as you find a scroll. You can find them as treasures in loot boxes. You can get them as drops from spellcasting enemies. It's pretty easy to acquire scrolls. I've got many, many, many hundreds of them at this point. So we'll just head back over here to the library, head through my kitchen there. Like I mentioned, there are different spellcasters. These are the armors that those various spellcasters wear. I've collected from around the world. Each of those does boost the particular spell class. I'm going to hop over here to the wiki and just kind of show you a few highlights. Heartstop is a very useful spell that blocks any damage, but at the end of its effect, you will take half of the damage that built up during the effect. Very useful spell to have in certain situations. Eldritch spells are pretty good for attacking. I like to use Planar Sight a lot to get the ability to see creatures through walls. Eldritch Blast, Scald Tentacles, and Sonic Boom are all good attack spells. We've got some good range on them. Black Hole is a fun one that you can create a black hole that sucks anything into it. If you've watched my video on potion effects, one thing to keep in mind is that these spells that are buffs can very frequently be converted into potion filters, and that can actually give you a pretty good array of buffs that otherwise you would have to keep in your spell book. Depending on your personal preferences, you might want to lean towards one school or another. I tend to lean towards Eldritch. I don't really use much of the other spells, but they are there if you want to be a pyromancer or a cryomancer or anything like that. But that is just a high-level overview of the Iron Spell Scrolls. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe.